I'm going to hell for this thumbnail, but hey, we all cope in our own way, especially since we are so back and in desperate need of therapy. Look, this episode's pretty much the show just announcing people were wrong for ever doubting it. Was the wait weird? Yes. Was it worth it? We'll see. But you cannot deny that this episode isn't everything that makes Invincible great and then some. From great character work, horrific violence that will make you gag, and the show inching closer to finally stop pretending Mark and Amber are ever going to be endgame. Invincible is great at a lot of things, and this episode has a little helping of each, as at this point, we have zero idea who's gonna live or die, which is exactly how I like it. So yeah, let's dive into the sweet, sweet carnage and gloss over the sheer amount of porn tags here, as yeah, this is a lot.
I guess we're all fucked.
Now, for everyone who doesn't know the reason for the 4-month-long break between episodes 4 and 5, don't ask me. Nobody actually knows, and if they do, they're not telling. There's been theories flying around between the show just not being finished to the idea that people are too busy in December to watch TV, so they didn't drop it. Personally, I lean towards the idea that maybe with the strikes back in June screwing the production pipeline for Amazon, that maybe they decided to keep just a constant flow of content for their subscribers. Shows like Has-Been and Invincible got moved back to fill the newly formed gaps in their schedule. Is this true? No idea, but sometimes you just have to take the L and keep moving on with your life. Speaking of the king of this, Mark. If Mark was a Super Saiyan, he'd be stronger than Goku at this point. Every, and I do mean every, major fight has ended up with him being more liquid than solid. But lucky or unlucky, the only part of him that is truly invincible is his spirit. As yeah, even after another top 5 worst days of his life, and he is at least self-aware enough to know that he can at least say that, yeah, this is one of his worst days, but at least it's only one of his worst days so far. As others weren't so lucky. The Thraxans, the bug people, were shattered by this attack, and while it would have been easier to try and leave, Mark decides to stay behind and help rebuild. As, yeah, this is kind of his fault by proxy of his father being his father. But before Mark can beat himself up about his bloodline, Nolan's bug wife helps him in saying that assigning blame in this case would be a waste of time. Their people live and die in mere months. They do not have time for this shit, and all they can do is keep moving forward, which is a lesson Mark has been struggling with for pretty much this entire season, as after what his dad did to him, and everyone else, and being afraid of ending up just like him, Mark has spent most of this time just dancing around the aftermath of Nolan's actions. So while it's small, getting this told to him is something he has been desperately needing to hear for a long time, with him seemingly internalizing this just a little bit, as the rest of the episode is about him trying to deal with his future problems rather than some past mistake. Like, and this is a small thing, the fact that he's now a brother dad. Mark's honestly a saint for doing everything that he does at the start of this episode, from helping these people rebuild their society where everyone who knew him won't be alive too much longer to assign blame, to fucking over his own life by taking in his purple half-brother. As while this little kid may grow fast, Thraxans still live faster, creating a nightmare scenario where this kid will never know anybody longer than a year. And this little horrifying thought experiment ties into one of the things I love most about Invincible. Well, one of the parts. Its sincerity.
Generations will pass before he's even an adult.
In a different show, the concept of being an alien society where everyone barely outlives house flies would be treated as a joke. In best case scenario, it's used as a lesson for our human protagonist to just stroll through and learn something before moving on. But not Invincible. Here, the show really allows itself to get these tender moments to really make us feel and connect with these people. And with the key for me being that we get it from their perspective. While a lot of stories will have us learn about society like this, it's almost always from just how the humans see them, with there just being a degree of oddity to it, that it's weird or goofy in some way. But Invincible makes sure to make us sympathize with the Thraxans and just give us perspective and the emotions tied to living such short lives. How this informs how they live, their society, and just how that makes them interact with the world. They do not have the time to be bitter, but we do have the time for the tragedy of a mom who's not going to live long enough to witness her son speak. While there are lessons here for Mark's benefit, the situation feels like a natural consequence of the world and the rules in it, which is something that I also have appreciated about the show just consistently. I always love how this story just always puts just a little bit of extra thought into how certain powers or abilities would work, and the consequences of such things existing. Like how being able to change sizes, while cool, doesn't really grant them any special other abilities. Like, they're not super strong, so if that person were to try to expand in someone who does have super strength, yeah, cue consequences. This is the brilliant thing that enriches so much of Invincible's world, as in having to justify its own superpowers, it creates interesting situations that make sense and not just one-off ideas for an episode. So Mark meeting the Thraxans, realizing the kind of life his brother is in for, yeah, it's tragic and a life that would be hard for anybody to live, as this kid will outlive everyone he knows every single year. So you really get the feels when the Empress is saying goodbye to her son, and you fully understand why Mark will have to take this kid in, as he is all this kid has, and the alternative is just horrifying. So more than just staying behind to help these people, he decides to take his brother in and screw himself over as great, he's now a single parent. And thankfully Mark's mom's around just to lend a little bit of a hand.
Who is that?
Again, Mark is a saint, and he gets it from his mom. Cause I can't imagine finding out your husband thought you were a pet, ruined your life, made another kid, and now you're stuck raising it. Like at this point, I'd get Nolan's shit back just so I could burn it with the house. But Debbie isn't about to blame the kid who doesn't have a name for the mistakes of the father. And I like how she doesn't really forgive Nolan like Mark did. Mark got to see his dad's new life. He got to feel him repent and learn the value of a life that he was in fact wrong for what he did. Meanwhile, Debbie is getting all this just secondhand, with her distance making certain patterns of leaving a mess for others to clean up seeming way more damning than it actually is. But again, and this is another secret of Invincible, we don't just always do superhero shit. Like, I love shows like that. They are so good, they are so fun. Without like the human element or like the normal life to really balance it out, things just kind of stop having value. You kind of lose track of like, okay, real people, real problems. You just have the constant gymnastics of, okay, we gotta do superhero thing, and it stops being grounded in reality. As when everything's super, nothing really is. So having all these ground moments really sets us up to just do the most insane shit later. As we've had the normalcy, we know like, okay, this is how the world is supposed to be, making the horrific things we see later just all the more shocking. And to just get my theories about this kid just out of the way, I'm not really sure what they're gonna do with him, as taking care of an alien who is gonna get super strength eventually is just, it's a nightmare waiting to happen. They can't really give him away, Cecil can't be trusted, so it's gonna be tragic for Debbie to finally start moving on with her life, only to be trapped yet again by another one of Nolan's mistakes. We don't know how quickly this kid will age, but it's not gonna be soon enough for anyone here. So I can definitely see Debbie having to quit her job to really take care of this kid. But I also think the other thing that could happen that isn't really brought up in this episode but might later is the Coalition. As we know, Alan the Alien and Thaddeus are looking for Viltrumites to fight in the war, so having this spare Viltrumite just hanging around would be the kind of freebie that they would be willing and very capable of taking care of. But the thing we kind of need to also remember about that is, we've seen how the porn stash is willing to risk Alan's life, and they do have a history of, well, child experimentation. So this isn't really gonna be the freebie that I would like it to be. Though if Mark finds out about any of this, that will be the deciding factor. He's not gonna give him up, but finding a way to really manage this life is going to be such a headache. Also, side note, the tunic Mark is wearing is somehow his best look. Just need to put that out there. Yes, I grew up with Legend of Zelda, no correlation, don't worry about it. This whole baby situation, everything with Debbie, it has all the pathos, so of course everything after this is just all the shit hitting the fan. Before that, housekeeping. Mark is, well, fucked at college. He missed a full 2 months, and I'm kinda shocked he wasn't just expelled at this point. Meanwhile, Mark's relationship with Amber is... Okay, this is my personal take. I think the writers are kind of scared of having Amber do anything slightly negative towards Mark after the shitstorm that was the last season. I am on record saying I hate the fact that they've had them get back together. She's just here so that Eve and Mark don't get together too soon. And that's kind of about it. They just need to bite the bullet and break these two up already, and thankfully we're getting hints of that here. As a lot has changed for Amber. Mark missed a full 2 months of her life, and yes, she did wait for him, but now he's back, and still dipping, so this will be the perfect chance for herself to dip out, as playing the partner toy superhero isn't all it's cracked up to be. In fact, it kinda sucks. Like, look at Mark when he first shows up. This is the look of a man expecting to be broken up with. Yet the second Eve shows up, it's all just uncomplicated hugs.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
We all know where this is going, so let's just get it over with. Like, I would be so appreciative. Though, Amber and Mark aren't the only couple that are having trouble in paradise.
Jesus, Cecil. I knew you were cold, but I never knew you were...
Sirs?
What?
So yeah, the work daddies are having a fight. Donald, Mr. Mysteriously Alive after getting blown to chunks, not pieces. We find out what his deal has been. And he's not a clone. No, this is worse.
State of the art. It's expensive as hell. Damn sight better than your old one, if you ask me.
So yeah, Donald is a RoboCop. He is a brain in a robot body, with Cecil being his regular sketchy self in that he decided to not tell or maybe even alter Donald's memories of this event, believing that Donald would be better off without it. Which continues to point out an element of Cecil that I just find so fascinating, as he is so good at hiding ethically dubious behavior behind seemingly good intentions and concerns. He wants to spare Donald the pain, he says, to avoid PTSD so he doesn't tell about his actual situation. Cecil says he's worries about Debbie taking care of an alien and offers a babysitter and daycare minutes after threatening to kidnap the child to force Mark's compliance. Cecil is the kind of person Nick Fury from Marvel would be if the comics weren't so worried about people not liking him. You could say that he's on the side of good, but really he's on team control where ethics are optional. If he can be nice, he'll do it, but only so long as he'll be able to get more out of it than just making threats. Cue Donald being a robot filled with who knows what, and Cecil playing off like, man, I did you a favor by lying to you. You could say that this was all for his own good, but when Cecil is the one who gets to decide what the greater good is, you really start noticing the problem of having a secretive, unchecked government organization. Though apparently he has some principles, as I'm honestly shocked and a little surprised he didn't just nuke the Martian spaceship when he heard what was in it. Because American lives, some Martians, but literal Starro invasion coming their way. Even if like the rockets could catch it, you could just throw Invincible at the thing. But we'll get to that in a second. Cecil is on full team control, not team good, which puts him in the same almost alignment as Robot, as yeah, he also seemingly prioritizes results over some emotional niceties, and that has always just been a little bit worrying about him. Like, he's apparently trying to date Monster Girl still. They're maybe together, they had one date. He did all sorts of fucked up things to get this child body for her, and that's a lot to put on a woman, and I am shocked she is okay being in the same room as him. But Rudy is going out of his way to check on her. He's speaking up for her to the immortal, when she could just do this herself, as she's the one who knows her body and knows, okay, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but pushes forward anyway. And while noble that he would just talk and try to defend her, there are other ways he could have approached this, like maybe he could have just talked to her about it. I do love Robot, he is also very fascinating, but he feels like he would become a supervillain the second she starts ghosting him. And I am excited for that to finally happen when it does. As yeah, you don't clone your friend and make a body for yourself and just become normal after that. But cover the last normal thing before things get crazy again. Eve and Rex explode.
Dry your tears, tell your parents to go shove it up their asses, and get back out there, right?
Rex is a douche, but he's just that right kind of annoying. He's obnoxious, yes, a cheater, totally. But when he goes to talk to Eve, you can see just that glimmer of what she saw in him besides pity and a six-pack. Eve is still beating herself up about all the things that kind of went wrong that were her fault, and she started backpedaling so hard on her life choices that she started living with her parents again. Which is a mood. But Rex pops in to give just probably the best emotional scene in this episode, and probably give what is the biggest death flag I have seen in a while. As Rex talks about all the good Eve has done, that what happened sucked, but no harm, no permanent foul. She may have messed up, but she can still keep doing better, which neatly ties into Mark's lesson of building a better future rather than assigning blame. This scene is great. It explains why Rex and Eve were ever a thing. Apparently he was living in her bedroom for a little while, as she has a thing for strays, let's be honest. But this here, it's all good. It is so sweet. And I think it also highlights the need for heroes to have other hero friends, as only these other crazy people can understand what they've been through. Eve may have only kind of semi-retired, but she kind of cut ties with pretty much everyone that she knew besides Mark. And kind of understandably so, as her old team was her ex, his booty call, and a borderline psychopath. She really didn't have anyone to vent to until this moment. But here comes Rex, it's sweet, and just like always, he ends up screwing her over.
We told you we were too powerful.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the trailer, things are only gonna get worse, and I have no idea how Invincible is going to fix this. A lot worse. So, personal opinion, the original Guardians of the Globe were a Diet Justice League, but this current version is bootleg Guardians of the Galaxy. No disrespect to anyone besides Rex, but out of everyone here besides the Immortal, none of them are really screaming A material. But right now, they are Earth's premier superhero team, so it's not really super surprising to me that once you break up the squad, C-tier supervillains just need a couple lucky breaks, and these people start dying horrifically. And I do mean horrific. I meme the moment up in my thumbnail, but I've never had such a perfect example where you can watch someone's hope die, then Shrinking Ray's death. And we have to praise the sound design here, as you can hear every bone in her body getting crushed against his throat only to stop, shatter, and crunch into nothing. As this man has super strength, and she didn't. So while she can make herself bigger, she should only really be doing that in areas where it is soft, she can break something important, and not have it be an actual contest between her body and the other person's. So while she could make herself bigger in this situation, she only ended up crushing herself to death. As this man doesn't spit, he swallows. This death was so bad, and I never do this, I went to the comics. As knowing that medium, I knew that this scene was either something new or a sensitive version of some demonic shit that they couldn't put to film. So imagine my surprise when it turns out that her death in the TV show is actually way worse than we see in the comics. As there, she's a he who gets just eaten. He's small, big guy is a cannibal, just because, calls the guy dessert, pops him in his mouth like a Tic Tac. That's it, donezo. But this, in the show where things are 1,000 times worse. As for a moment, you have hope. She starts expanding, Rex is talking shit, we've seen this work before on the other guy, but then she doesn't come out. She is still in there, so we are all stuck watching a woman get trapped in the trash compactor this man calls a throat, where all it takes is him flexing and it's over. Holy shit. I was starting to think Invincible couldn't shock me, and I'm proven wrong. I should not question it, but I will be sending a bill to my therapist for this. But now to quickly just theorize over who's going to live and who's gonna stay dead, because yeah, Kate's gonzo. But if I'm being honest and just using the trailer just as a guess, apparently they only bury one person. So there is a chance only one member of the crew will actually stay dead. That or Rex nukes himself and they can only bury the ashes. But if I was a betting man, I think Rex might live. Maybe he's in the hospital in this shot. I even hazard a guess that Duplicate might also make a comeback, as we have established the RoboCop thing, and there's a lot of bodies of hers just lying around. And we don't really know how her powers work, so if she can get put in the robot, she might be able to make a clone of herself. Maybe that's how she gets back to like full living, but we'll just have to wait and see. The only one that I am fully confident is going to stay dead and not come back is Ray, as like, you can't walk back a death that gruesome and ever have stakes again. It does feel almost too obvious for Rex to die, but at this point, anything is possible. Crazy that he's gonna be killed by a Cobra Commander knockoff, but kinda fitting. Though we also don't know how King Lizard broke out of jail. And when it comes to this show, I'm just gonna blame every unexplained sketchy thing on Cecil and a robot till I'm proven wrong. But now to move on to the other situation. Yep. They're all fucked too. Very simple, they're trapped on the thing, everyone's about to get swarmed. We know Rudy and Eve are going to get got, but I really need to just give an apology first, as I really need to apologize to Black Samson. I saw him have sparks when he got his powers back, so I just kind of assumed that he had lightning powers. Turns out he only has super strength. My bad, sorry for questioning why you were just punching everything, as lightning would actually be really good in this situation. That one was on me, just like all these tentacles are on everybody else. The only way to stop these things is to free every person from the hive mind. Maybe Mr. Martian's gonna come in clutch after fucking everything up, but I think we also need to address something else that's been nagging at me for a while. Invincible's animation. It's not the best, I think it's serviceable, and most people who watch the show are just gonna have fun and not really think about it. But it does feel a tad bit limited at times. they're still gonna work, but I do feel like there are moments where it could have been better and really just elevate just the insanity of what we're seeing on screen. As up until this point, the best fight scene in the series is still the Eve fight from the special. And nothing, and I do mean nothing, has come even close, not a block, not a mile, to being nearly as cool as that fight scene. But we've seen that they can go that hard, so I'm just waiting for a moment to like really match that. I'm not saying this to blame anyone who's working on the show. I've heard rumors that Invincible had a very small production window, like stupid short for animation. So I'm really hoping for season 3 we get to see a lot more crazier stuff, as just giving these people the time they need to work and create these more insane, intense scenes really would just elevate this show so much. And even though most people won't notice, for me, it kind of got really obvious as I started editing. You realize just how little movement there is when you play it at double or especially triple speed. I know it's rough out there, give everyone the time and the pay that they need, but to be real, animation here is mostly serviceable. But hey, Starro got hold of Eve, so maybe we're gonna get another crazy fight scene. Though how they're gonna stop her is beyond me. Though to move on to the final interesting lore bit. Like, okay, I think I get what that was supposed to convey here. Thaddeus is a Viltrumite, aka he is so strong that he could rip off his beard without flinching. But in practice, the thing Alan is reacting to feels like it's the fact that Thaddeus has the mustache. Like, it is such a Viltrumite staple that it is hereditary, that is so synonymous with the species that other aliens recognize it on sight. And that is just unintentional comedy to me. Also, yeah, Alan, he is an actual Super Saiyan. He gets stronger after nearly being killed, which, good for him. But yeah, the coalition is being led by a Viltrumite who betrays his people, and he is very interested in meeting Mark and by proxy Nolan once he hears about him. We know the books that Nolan told Mark to read contain, well, we don't know details, but I'm guessing he wrote just adventures copy and paste from his life, so all the space details from those books are just going to reflect actual real life things. Maybe even the real location of Viltrum's homeworld. That knowledge would be worthless if Mark meets Alan, as they probably know that shit. Personally, I'm kind of hoping maybe Nolan has a spaceship and they can use that to get to Viltrum. But Mark now has one more Viltrumite to possibly disappoint him. And this guy, yeah, I think he's gonna be good-ish, but he is also, again, very sketchy. He played chicken with Alan's life, and the fact that this man betrayed Viltrum, while a good sign, the fact that he's here, like, and Viltrum isn't hunting him, I feel like that has to be a sign he had to do some really secretive shit to really get away with it. So I'm just curious how Thaddeus is able to get underneath Viltrum's radar while Nolan was hunted to the ends of the earth. And then some. Overall, I am so happy that Invincible is back. It had the pathos that makes a horror hit that much harder. The show has been gone for a bit, but it hasn't missed a step. I'm curious to see how the show will balance all these different plot threads moving forward, as we do have a lot of things going on. We still have to deal with Angstrom skulking around the multiverse, we have Viltrum doing its thing, and not to mention whatever nonsense pops up on Earth. Like, any one of these things could have been the focus of a show or a season. But Invincible is somehow able to balance all three, and so far the writing has been so consistent that I'm pretty sure they'll be able to pull it off. The real question is what order will tackle these events and how they'll bleed into one another, as somebody is coming to inspect Mark's job of subjugating the Earth, and he is not gonna do that shit. But with Angstrom lying around, we might be in to meet a version of Mark that would. This has been Starcast of Course. Like, share, and subscribe to be kept up to date on all my thoughts on Invincible and all the other things. I'm gonna try and do each of these weekly, along with other videos and a little something special for myself. So be on the lookout for all that, and we'll see if I can actually deliver on any of it.